It's honestly pretty embarrassing I've only gotten around to covering Light Dasa's popular OC Cacee now. I've had the mod downloaded for months by this point, ready to review, but I've always ended up reviewing different characters instead. But today, we're going to be remedying that, so let's dive straight in. Cacee's moveset is quite nostalgic in a way for me, as it reminds me quite a lot of the characters I covered when first starting SRB2 mods. The template that they, and by extension Cacee, stick to is simple. Pressing jump gives you an ability that travels vertically, and pressing spin gives you an ability that travels horizontally. Add some extra random perks and or mod compatibilities, ignore the existence of custom buttons entirely, and release the mod. In Cacee's case, her jump ability is the rising upper, an uppercut that drags nearby enemies along with her, and her spin ability is the spike rush, a combo of two punches that ends in a ground pound with a seemingly pretty ridiculous area of effect. Neither of the abilities individually have a great deal of complexity, with the closest thing to nuance probably being the fact that the amount of distance covered seems to correspond with the length of time that the button is held down combined with the current momentum, but together they get a little more interesting. As previously mentioned, rising upper drags enemies up with you, and because you can use the spike rush in midair, you can continue to wail on these enemies, assuming you can actually hit them as Cacee lacks any form of lock-on functionality. Doing so will allow you to use a second rising upper, and if you can carry multiple enemies, you can get some pretty amazing height. Because the final hit of the spike rush combo gives you a very slight boost in height, you can reach platforms that seem just out of reach otherwise, which means you can clutch a lot of jumps that would otherwise be impossible. Overall, Cacee's moveset is a lot of fun, comboing together very well in a fairly thought and planned out way, while not being too overpowered. There's still a bunch of extras to Cacee, and they're the sort of little details that don't necessarily change a mod rating on their own, but together can really elevate one above the rank and file. As he is indeed a cactus, you'd assume that he is somewhat immune to spikes, could get very awkward otherwise. And you'd be absolutely right, because Cacee is completely immune to almost every form of spiky object in the game, excluding only spike balls and those found on enemies. Due to his status as a sentient cactus, apparently one of the most fire-retardant plants in the world, she is also partially immune to fire damage, being able to tank one hit before dropping a ring. To refresh that immunity, it's a nice touch that Light Dasa and SMS Alfredo made it so that you can choose to douse yourself in water instead of just waiting. She will damage any enemies she comes into contact with, obviously due to her spiky nature, and even has her very own custom tutorial that the mod is very keen that you know about, as they made it very big and very obvious on the level select screen. Overall, just a nice set of extra flourishes that really adds to the overall moveset. I think it's a given by this point, but as a Light Dasa mod, Cacee has a really beautiful set of sprites. But even among a gallery that includes characters like Surge the Tenrec and Omelette, I think Cacee is still somewhat a cut above the rest. I can't quite place my finger as to why that is specifically, but I think it might be something to do with how the shading appears to be just a little bit more condensed than usual, and therefore gives the character a richer colour scheme. And the more cartoony character design is also a big plus, with the massive boxing gloves, bandana and poncho giving her a very iconic look. After a month or so of mods that all hovered somewhere between average and disappointing, it's a real treat to get another mod that really knocks it out of the park. I like how simple Cacee's moveset is, I like all the little extras that went into the mod, and I especially love her design. A 9 out of 10 is very well deserved here, for an overall very polished mod. I hope you enjoyed the video, and ciao.